Alright, guys, so I'll go with chapter 20 this time. So here's a disclaimer, and back to the picture. Chapter 20 Our Struggle. Aposios yawned as he woke up. He looked around and saw that others were preparing themselves to get out of their beds. Lucio suddenly jumped down from above him and groaned due to his heavy fall. After that, he slowly felt his way to go outside and perhaps drink some water. Aposios got up and followed after him, and others got up to take theirs as well. For the good part of that early morning, soldiers went about the fortress, visiting lavatories, drinking water from wells, relaxing around the fire pits, checking upon supply cars and wagons, and dressing into their armor to get ready to be in formation on the headquarters field. Another good part of the early morning passed, and Lord Pericles blew the horn. "Attention! Are we all here?" Lord Pericles shouted and looked around. "Good. Commanders and captains, check to see if we have all the needed supplies." Commanders and captains took their time in checking the supplies. "Inspectors, do the second check after the commanders and captains," Lord Pericles said. The inspectors took their time in checking the supplies. "Now, everyone check if you have all the needed weapons, armor, and equipment," Lord Pericles shouted. All the soldiers checked themselves and those around them. "Go ahead and get the items that you've forgotten to bring," Lord Pericles said. Some soldiers hastily went back to their barracks, and in no time they came back panting. "All right, due to our previous recruiting frenzy, we now have around 150 soldiers. Heavy melee infantries, you've seen an increase. Medium melee infantries, you've seen an increase. And archers, you've seen an increase. We've also taken out some of our fortress keepers to tag along and get a taste of what's really happening out there. We'll have a long one this time, for we will go all the way south of Anatolia, to the Goksu River, and at the mouth of it there shall be a few villages and towns for us to raid from, and we will take many bounties. I'll give you further announcements when we get near. With that, let's march!" Lord Pericles shouted out the announcement. The soldiers marched out of the forest. Lord Pericles and his big three led the way while on armored horses, which gave them a sudden increase in prestige as soldiers behind them looked in awe. The heavy melee infantries followed behind the horsemen, with the supply wagons pulled by other horses, and the medium melee infantries of Commander Lapido's platoon came third. Commander Lefteri's platoon came fourth. Commander Kairos and his archers along with the fortress keepers came fifth, and lastly, Thomas and Captain Claw's groups marched along. "You know, it's not too bad to come last all the time. We get to chat and goof around," Thomas said. Pasios laughed. "I agree. Captain Claus and Commander Kairos' men become the noise shields for us." Thomas looked at Pasios. "Well, you're already adapted to our situation here, aren't you?" "Yeah, I like how you guys value fun times and food more than obtaining more prestige," Pasios said. "I wonder, will it be the same when we again see more increase in soldiers?" Seth said. "I think everything's still the same even though the executives just up and added 25 additional people into our organization, including filling in the deceased and recruiting more fortress keepers," Thomas said. Pasius flinched. "Wait, they increased the number of fortress keepers?" "Yes, they were recruited from our islands over the course of the previous 4 months," Ibrahim said. "Indeed, we now have around 60 fortress keepers, a drastic increase compared to around 20 of them 4 months ago," Thomas said. "Isn't it because the civilians are asking for an increase of guards and free people?" "I would think so. I don't know why anyone would dare steal anything from anyone on this island and seek to get away with it. Anyways, I would say that it's necessary for a growing town," Thomas said. "Yes, and it's because all current soldiers have their work assignments to do, so our community peacekeeping has been stagnant lately," Ephraim said. "And I say that's why we're going on a raid again. We have put raiding on hold for just too long. I still thought we could last half a year with our previous raiding profits, but it seems the executives decided to shorten our rest," Seth said. "Sadly so. Don't die, you guys. Just stay alive and that's all we need," Thomas said. Others agreed and they continued the march to the harbor. When the soldiers arrived, They got into 3 separate ships, 2 of which were combat ships, and one was the cargo ship, which was the support infantries which the support infantries frequently boarded. Man, we got stuck with the cargo ship again, Captain Thomas muttered. Yeah, it sucks. Slow and dense, Thomas sighed. I guess we'll have a heck of a time trying to catch up to others. I think it's actually cool. Just fitting for our soldiers to be more precise, Ibrahim looked around. It's taller than other ships, giving us a higher location to shoot from, and stronger in every other way, which will give us cover when we have to flee. Hmm, it may come useful later on. But for now, I don't like it, Thomas said. I think we'll be stuck with this forever, Seth said. Oh, don't you dare jinx it, Seth, Thomas glared and said. No, seriously, we built this before. And I heard Lord Pericles saying that it's a perfect fit for the support platoon. He never publicly said that we'll be using this forever, but I think that's the case, Seth said. Thomas sighed deeply. I don't like this, but oh well, I guess I have no choice. The 3 ships soon left Prinkipo and sailed in a southwesterly direction. For the first 3 days, the soldiers sailed in a rush due to the combat ships sailing very fast. They hardly ever stopped on the coastal towns during their journey, for they ate and slept always on their ships. They passed by Callipolis, and then eastern Aegean islands in those swift 3 days, and by the 4th day's afternoon, Lord Pericles' ship suddenly stopped at the Rhodes city. The harbor fees were paid for a night's tenure, and the soldiers got off the ships to enter the city's walls. When they arrived at the gate, the Hospitaller knights cautiously looked over them from their walls. Apicius saw Lord Pericles' diplomats exchanging conversation with the gatekeepers. Some time passed by and they came back to Lord Pericles to talk. When it was over, Lord Pericles ordered the soldiers to disarm everything before entering the city's gate. Thus, the soldiers got back to their ships and then arrived at the gate in 4 vague lines along with their platoons to enter. Lord Pericles' soldiers felt they were nothing compared to the fully armored and equipped Hospitaller knights by the gate. They gazed at the soldiers in superior expression, and the soldiers looked at them in awe. Nobody noticed the numerous regular soldiers who were around the Hospitaller knights guarding the entrance because the knights drew away all the attention. Apicius noticed that their armor looked much better in every single way than those of Lord Pericles' soldiers, as those were cleaner, shinier, and much more durable. The wearers were much different in every single way too. They seemed to be much more confident, better built, and even the seemingly lowest ranking of the knights were superior in every sense compared to Prinkipo soldiers. Due to unwillingness to look full of pride, Lord Pericles was walking next to his horse, not on it, the same as his big 3 guards. Thus, there went by the humble walk through the city's gate, and the soldiers dispersed amongst different squads to look for various inns to relax for a while. After they had relaxed for some time, Thomas brought out his group members to take a walk around the city sightseeing. Then they first took a walk through the main street, and it was a splendid experience for Apicius, for it seemed so much better than either Prinkipo town or Constantinopolis. The street was very wide, and it was nicely paved with polished stones and gravel, while the buildings around it were nicely maintained. For a long while, Thomas and his soldiers walked along in silence, staring at the buildings around them in awe. Soon they came to the plaza where many merchants had set up their shops to sell goods to civilians who were walking around, and there were some places to sit around. Thomas looked back at his groupmates. You know why I brought you guys out to walk instead of getting dinner later? Some of his groupmates shook their heads or muttered out their names. Man, these buildings look great. I bet that's why you brought us out, Lucida said. Thomas chuckled. You're absolutely wrong, for today is Saturday and we'll be having our discussion by the empty corner, enjoying the scenes around us. They then walked to the corner and slowly sat around in a circle. Then they took out some snacks while having a discussion. While that was going on, Thomas slowly flipped through the pages of his Bible, to which he planned out for the day. He then talked with Ephraim as he was trying to decide which story could be fitting for their current situation. Alright, folks, Today, we've come through many hardships and finally arrived at this marvelous city, Rhodes, in which we give thanks to our most glorious Lord for providing us such an opportunity to enjoy our lives and witness a splendid example of how a city should be built. I was a prideful man before, but today I am much humbled by the city, which showed me that my previous achievements in our town were infinitesimal ones. I wish that all of us could learn from our experiences here and use it in the furtherance of our town and Prinkeeple. Thomas started off with his short speech. When he paused for a while, others muttered out their amen or simply nodded in agreement. When Thomas deemed that his groupmates had become silent, he decided to speak again. Thankfully, Lord Pericles gave us a respite in the middle of our raiding journey. He is giving us a night of rest, and we must get back to our ship by tomorrow morning. I again give thanks to the Lord Almighty, who gave such time for his servants to worship him, his servants being us, and we are all bound under his mercy. Therefore, I pull out the teachings from the Bible. It's that if we make the Lord Most High our refuge and dwelling place, then he will let no evil fall near to us, and he will cover us under his wings to protect us during the times of calamity. We need this lesson as we resume on the raiding journey today, for the evil may be waiting to clash upon us at any given moment, and it's the Lord who either makes them go the other way or towards us. Thomas paused to eat some almonds. Furthermore, we are protected under his grace and mercy if, see, here's a stipulation, if we have his truth as our shield and his word with us at all times. He coughed a couple times. After all, we can't do anything on our own. We think we are in control, but that's not it, for he has to guide us and steer us for our lives to continue. Undell raised his hand. Captain Thomas, can you explain what you mean by evil? You repeat that word a couple times, and it sounds vague, Undell said. Evil could mean many things, so you're correct in which it sounds vague. However, to make it simple, evil here means anything that you wouldn't want to happen amongst us. For example, say that multiple pirate ships attack us on our next journey. You wouldn't want that, do you? Thomas said. Undell shook his head, so Thomas continued. Or let's say someone slipped off from our ship and he drowned, perhaps eaten by the great fish. Or our ship meets a storm and it wrecks us along the shore, breaking our ship. There could be so many possibilities of evil if we are to say them word by word. All those things are exerted by the word of Lord Almighty, for he gives and takes away life as he sees fit. And here is a great example when the Son of the Lord commanded the storm to be silenced, and that worked as the scripture said, which proves the might of the Lord. Therefore, your job is to learn in common sense wise, as we go on having such lessons and discussing with each other. Do you get it now? Thomas said. Undell nodded his head in understanding. Therefore, Thomas was about to continue, but Edwin raised his hand. Captain Thomas, what do you mean by making the Lord as our refuge and dwelling place? Edwin said. As far as my understanding goes, I tell you that it's about primarily relying on the Lord as our solver of problems and challenges we face. Sure, we use our swords and shields to fight, but that shouldn't be something which gets placed above the Lord Most High in getting credit for our victory. Another example is that we shouldn't place our diplomats' conversational skills first in getting us into this city without any big issues. For it's the Lord Most High who made the hospitality nice be merciful in letting us in. It's not to say that our diplomats aren't skillful. It just means that our Lord is the utmost being who has total control of the whole world, Thomas said. Thanks a lot, Captain Thomas. I get it now, Edmund said. When nobody else asked questions, Thomas continued. We'll do something different today, for we won't go by our usual orders, so anyone who wants to take their turn, take it this time. After that, he passed the speech staff to Ephraim. First of all, I would like to thank you guys' contributions in giving monetary aid to my childhood friend. I know it is kind of late to state my thanks right now, because a month ago, I got a letter saying that he's in good shape, and his family taken care of. Apparently, the money was more than enough in getting them through the hard times. And lastly, he returned back to his job, Ephraim said. Other soldiers congratulated Ephraim. They continued on with the discussions and spent a long time sharing their questions and ideas. And at the end, Thomas group learned more about the Bible's teachings. Then they went away to eat dinner, and later came back to the inn to sleep and be ready to continue the journey the day after. In the early morning of Sunday, everyone waited in front of Lord Pericles by the harbor. Attention! This time we must get very serious, Lord Pericles shouted. The soldiers hastily got into their formation. This raiding expedition shall be the infidel slaughtering expedition. Our victim city will be Seleucia, which lies on the Goksu River. We'll head straight to the city with our ships. Then we'll disembark and immediately start by raiding the harbor station, which surely has money piled up. Do you understand so far? Lord Pericles shouted. Yes, Lord, the soldiers shouted. After that, we'll raid from the buildings around the harbor station and continue to raid until our ships have become loaded with expensive goods. Some of you guys whom we'll select when we get there. We'll take watch duties to see if enemy soldiers of the castle come down to fight us. Now I ask you, are you guys ready for a slaughter field? Lord Pericles shouted. Yes, Lord, the soldiers shouted. The three ships sailed out again, and it took them 3 days to reach their destination. When they began sailing up the Gobson River, there were merchant ships sailing in front of them. By then, many soldiers had already hidden themselves underneath their ship's main decks, and as usual, only few remained on top to pretend as merchants. Soon, the ships sailed closer to the dock, and the pretenders got themselves ready to shout for warfare. Alright, so I'm gonna let you know that I would say the first section of the part one is done. And with that, we're gonna transfer over to the second section. And with the beginning of that new section, there's it becomes more, I would say, more collected, and it also has prologue to it. Cause like the first section was finished way before the second section. Like the first section was basically the foundation, so it took uh, quite a long time. I would say like 2 to 3 years. But then second section, it only took like I would say 6 months because I was really on fire and I was typing very much. There were days in which I would type 15 Microsoft Word pages in 12 Times New Roman fonts without any space uh, per day. It was great achievement. I mean, I'm talking about like my my best days. So so with that, like this new chapter will be more collected and it will have more things and a lot more pages. So get ready for them. It'll really rock the cores of ordinary books. I would say this is not gonna be. This is gonna have some extra spice than the section one that we have just gone through. So I mean, thank you very much for listening. So with that, I say goodbye and have a nice one.